Hey, everyone. We are going to be discussing boundaries for this talk. And for people that don't know, I have a free masterclass coming up tonight at 7:30 p.m. So it might go until 9 o'clock. It's just going to depend on the amount of people that we have and the amount of questions in there. Okay. So I did a blog yesterday through robinsealing.com discussing a few things about boundaries that I'm also going to be discussing here. So feel free to let me know as well what you know about boundaries, excuse me, and also what you'd like to work on. Okay. Right away, the fact that I am getting like a lot of tension in my throat, excuse me, I felt like somebody hopped on and then ran away. That's a perfect example of how like fear will creep in when it comes to working on ourselves. It happened, like, I feel like 8 times out of 10. That's my feeling is, we have to work through those fears if we really wanna get ahead, okay? So boundaries is something that we'll always be working on. It's never gonna be perfect because just when you move up with one aspect, it seems like it wants to show up in another area, and it kinda keeps you on your toes, okay? So in my free masterclass tonight, we're going to be doing a thing called theta healing. So you can also read my blog through robinsealing.com discussing more about what theta healing is. You can also check out my playlists. I do have a playlist with theta healing downloads in there as well. And so essentially what it is I'm inviting you to release the things that are no longer serving you, and I'm going to replace that energy with something that you would like to attract. So for instance, if you're looking to attract healthy boundaries in your life, that could be in different aspects, right? So we want to kind of dissect where you're at, and that's where the masterclass will be perfect for people who are one thing that I wrote down are basically people who are sensitive, okay? People who are empaths. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I'm an empath and I work with a lot of empaths, and that's kind of what's been coming up for me a lot lately in my energy field. Relationships as well are a big part of boundaries too. And by the way, my name is Robin. If this is your first time tuning in, thanks so much for subscribing. And one of the key things that I work with people, aside from using theta healing, I also offer Reiki to people. I teach that through my membership group, and sometimes I do occasional classes. I also do the Akashic Records, where I offer healing and readings in there. I actually went into the Akashic Records before I came on here specifically to discuss boundaries. All right. So I trust that the words that are coming up are exactly the words that need to come up. And as soon as someone was hopping on when I first came on, I was feeling in my body as an empath something going on around somebody's throat because I was talking about, like, okay, now it's time for you to express. And again, if you are an empath, you might have issues with the throat chakra as well, because it's really important as a person who's working on boundaries that you feel comfortable saying no. So if you're a person who has no issue saying no, then maybe you have already have healthy boundaries in certain departments. Okay. The other thing is social media is another important thing to focus on, because when you have really, really strong boundaries, you're very comfortable with what you put on social media. You're very comfortable with, I find, with what other people are on have on social media. You tend to have no issues with blocking people when you need to block people, unfriending people when you need to unfriend people, or the opposite. Um, Bringing friends into your social media, bringing friends into your communities, etc. Okay, and that's where things can get a little like cranky, because sometimes, like, for instance, for myself, I'll use myself as some examples here if people aren't sharing their own. But I find if you are very sensitive, sometimes there is fear around hurting other people's feelings. When you have healthy boundaries, sometimes we have to express ourselves in an honest way. And there could be that fear of like hurting someone else. But at the end of the day, we want to be kind, but we want to feel safe to express who we are as well. And expressing our boundaries, which is expressing our wants and our needs. So if you struggle with communicating what you want and what you need, then you're in the right place as well. Okay, then you're a good fit for this class. The actual class is the 23rd and the 30th of November. It's only $90. So, and that's going to be 3 hours worth of class. It's not going to be recorded for people to watch on the replay. So if you want the information, you absolutely have to attend. However, it will be recorded. So again, in my membership groups, I can use content as I please. Okay. So that's something that you're agreeing to. The other thing too is we might get hurt easily if we are struggling with our boundaries because we might again have fear of how somebody's going to react to us. So they might judge us, they might criticize us. So we might feel like we don't want to set our boundaries because of what somebody else is going to think. Okay, so that's something to be mindful of. If you feel like your relationships are draining or not easy for you, this could be another sign that you need to work on boundaries because ideally, in an ideal world, the relationships that you have are healthy and the relationships are safe for you and they're a vibrational match for you as well. Okay. So this gets us into different types of boundaries as well. So that's kind of, I feel like talking about, well, there's tons of different types. But for instance, you might be a person who has an energetic bubble where you don't like people in your space. Okay. This is called a physical boundary. And I wrote down like people also touching you. You might not be a physical touch person, and I feel like knowing your love language might be helpful with this as well. And I'm not familiarized, but I feel like human design might be helpful for you as well, just to have healthier boundaries. So the more we know about ourselves and how we work, the easier it will be to communicate that to other people. And as I was saying, as we're growing and shifting, this is going to change as well. So of course we can get a little uncomfortable with this because it's like, oh, I just got comfortable and now I have to be uncomfortable again. Okay. So the theta healing downloads that I offer for people are really supportive because some of this stuff that we're carrying around might be from childhood. It might be from like old beliefs that we've had. And ideally, we want to change that. Right. So another boundary would be an intellectual boundary. Okay. This is when we feel like our beliefs aren't respected or they're being dismissed. So, for instance, if I go to say, like, I feel like boundaries are really, really important to have a healthy lifestyle or have a healthy life in general. And somebody doesn't agree with that. And they're constantly like arguing with me. They're like, well, you can still have a healthy lifestyle and not have healthy boundaries. We'll just say. So that's where there might be like an issue coming up where I feel like I need to up level my intellectual boundaries and say, okay, perhaps I'm only inviting people into my space who are respectful of what my beliefs are. So they're not constantly challenging them. Okay. And this is where it gets touchy because it's okay to have different beliefs, but it's that you respect mine and I respect yours. Okay. So instead of feeling like we're putting our beliefs onto somebody else, because that's where we might need boundaries. Like, I respect you, but I don't really like believe what you believe. So let's just like separate this. Okay. Politics are the same thing when people feel well, I think we know during some of the health things that have been happening the last 3 years or so, where there's some issues there where people aren't respecting each other's opinions. Okay, so that's called an intellectual boundary. This is really, really important again with the throat chakra because maybe it takes a lot for you to express how you feel about something, and then somebody might just be like, as if they didn't even hear you. They just ignored you. Okay. So it's about stepping into our power as well. And when we hold really strong boundaries, some people don't like it because we're stepping into our power, and some people don't like that you have power. Some people like to manipulate. Some people like to take away that power. Some people don't like the new version of you because then they'll have to change. Okay. So when it comes to relationship boundaries, this is about our independence and our codependence. It's also connected to other boundaries as well. So tonight in our masterclass, we're going to be kind of going through these, and we're going to be getting everyone to kind of check in with where they are that way. Do they need to work on all of these boundaries, just some of them? And sometimes we think that we're all good in one area, and we're actually like not at all. And so we muscle test when we do theta healing, which is getting a yes or no in terms of like, I have healthy boundaries. So you could ask yourself that right now. I have healthy boundaries, yes or no? Chances are you do need to clean them up if you're watching this. So material boundaries is another one, okay? So we see this a lot as children, like, this is my stuff, right? So this is like where I keep my sage. I have a little light burner. By the way, these are for sale. And so I have my rose and sage in here, okay? And this is like kind of sacred to me, I won't lie. Like when I have certain things that I use for work, I kind of like it to be like my stuff, okay? Just because it's like it's sacred to me, okay? So say somebody comes over here and takes my little thing and dumps out all of my sage and my rose petals and throws it in the garbage, and then they take their cigarette and then they use this for an ashtray, okay? Woo! That's giving me chills everywhere. I feel like that would like maybe push my boundaries. Another way to say it is maybe my buttons. But also, it could be innocent in the way that they didn't know that that was something that was important to me or sacred to me, right? So, another way to work through some of these things is, of course, we need to set boundaries. So, a big component would be we don't want to get like angry and pissed off at people if they've crossed our boundaries, right? Often this is part of a learning experience. There's a difference between somebody consciously doing something to you. You could become a victim in that situation. Like, this happened to me. And this is where theta healing is also really supportive, because sometimes there's like a little story that we're also playing um, in our mind about what happened to us, when all it really could have been was that maybe there was poor communication there. Not that you have to have a sign on all your stuff that has your name on it saying like Robin Sacred Sage Burner, right? However, I live with one person, okay? And that person knows that I have certain sacred things because I've communicated that to the person. I also have like energetic boundaries as well. So that would be related to like my space as well. So again, this is still related. So material boundaries is your space and your stuff and your money, and it's the energy in your space. So like people touching your things. Okay. So I know that my husband respects those boundaries. And also, I'm respectful of his because he also has like things in, we'll say, like something that he has a Yeti that he likes to drink out of. And he would share that with me. But I also know that like he likes it to be in the same place. He likes to know that it's there when he needs it. And he hasn't actually expressed that necessarily in that clear of a way, but from like a physical boundary space, right, and a material space, I've observed these things, okay, but he wouldn't be angry with me if I wanted to use it. Right? But what if I just constantly take it? He might have to communicate that with me. So I think you guys are getting this. The other thing too would be like nosy people, right? So you have that nosy neighbor or that person that you know just wants all of your information so that they can take it and go tell somebody else, right? So that's where it's kind of like if we know somebody doesn't have good intentions, we want to be more mindful of that. And again, sometimes this is related to practice, and sometimes this is related to observation. So the more we can take more self-reflection time, that's why I'm saying observation is when we do meditations, we do a lot of journaling, we go to healers, and we work on this stuff, right? The other thing too is setting boundaries early, so that if you know that somebody's going to like you've seen patterns of behaviors with people, right? Over and over, we can see other people's patterns. We can observe them if we've been constantly working on ourselves. So, say we know that like every Wednesday, so and so is going to call me and they're going to talk to me for an hour. Okay. So, but we don't feel like we have that time. So, time is another boundary. So, it's like, okay, on Tuesday, I'm going to communicate to this person that on Wednesday, I only have 10 minutes to chat. So I'm going to set that boundary early. Okay. So, in a way, we're setting ourselves up for success. We're communicating, but we're also instilling new patterns of behavior. So, if you're hopping on and you have any boundaries you want to work on, we can do that as well. These are just touching on some things. Sexual is also in there. A lot of people have had sexual abuse, and that can be quite damaging to a lot of people. Again, I help people work through some of that energy as well. Um, Sometimes, again, topics of conversation could make us feel uncomfortable as well. So we might have to say, okay, I have felt this way as well before, just when people are choosing to discuss a lot of negative things, gossiping about other people. I've had to say, like, look, would it be okay if when you are over here or when we're talking that we could keep it positive? Again, if you're finding relationships are draining, it's sometimes your job to either change who you're spending your time with or at least let the person know, okay? And so the healthiest way is honestly by expressing, as we were talking with the throat chakra. I feel like this is like a big topic. There, again, tonight in the masterclass, we're going to be going through these. You'll see examples. If you can't catch it, but you decide to watch the replay, hopefully we'll be able to cover some things that are related to you. If you're not in there, we can't really do that, but at least if you want to come into the 2-night class, again, that's the 23rd and the 30th. We have 7 spots still available. So we would love to have you in there. And then even if you just can only come to one night, it's still going to benefit you tremendously. This is something that we're working on in our psychic development program as well. That's a 6-week program. We're almost finished up with that. But if you're a VIP member in my membership group, you're also going to get access to that psychic development program. So again, that might be an additional thing that you would like to be able to review and watch. All right. So I hope you guys have an amazing day. Thanks so much for taking the time. We're going to see you at 7:30 p.m. over Zoom. You do need the link for that, so you can reach out or go onto robinshealing.com and sign up there and get the link. Bye for now.